I guess a handout, guys. Like Mr. Trilling has said, my name is Randy Bain. I teach at Strother. What I'm going to do for you today, guys, this is a lesson I do with my 8th graders. I like to get them out in the shop, get them outside. I'm fortunate enough to have a large enough building that I can designate a corner about the size of this classroom, and that's electricity. We 2-3 weeks is all we spend on it. I get them out of the classroom to show them that ag is different. I am not in the classroom with them. I'm always out with them to help with my recruitment, to get them involved, and for them to say, oh, hey, this is pretty cool. So we're just going to go over a few quick things, little things, tools you need. Let's see if I can get this thing to work here. Oh, well, that went. All right, so where is the enable editing? Is it that one?
Present?
Yeah.
Down, yeah, that works.
That works. Okay, so basic things, guys. Electrical tape. A few of these scenarios you hit, you'll need electrical tape. Screwdrivers, obviously. You've got to tighten the screws. One thing you're going to have to watch is some of your 8th grade boys or something are going to want to tighten these things ridiculously. They strip them out. I go through about 10 lamp bases a year because they strip out very easy. Needle nose pliers are a must. You have to have it to curve the wires, to twist the wires. Cable rippers. Okay, there's 2 different types of cable rippers on here, and I'll show you both of them. There is this metal one. It's got a tooth, and what it's used for is to strip the outside Romex off. You can slide it down over here, squeeze it, pull it off, and then all you gotta do is trim off the outside Romex. There is another one that I found. My kids really don't like it. I like it because it's pretty easy. It's called the Little Ripper Stripper. If you search for that on your school internet, you probably can't find it. I had to order wire strippers off Amazon from the house because school Wi-Fi would not let me do it. It's got a little tooth in here, and all you do is you slide it over, and you simply stab it through, pull it out. I like this a little better because once these get dull, they're useless. Not even good for a paperweight. You sit there and you can as hard as you can and pull. It's going to mess up the Romex, and it's a bigger pain than it is to fight with. Wire nuts, and then wire strippers. I push the CDE team really hard for electricity. I buy about 6 to 8 of these every year. Just so my team, the ones that are practicing, have good ones. I rotate it out. I go through the bad ones. I just get rid of. Kids will sit there and fight with them, and just to make sure we have good ones. Lineman pliers. Guys, get you a good set. Okay, you can buy the good blue ones. Cobalt has a decent one. And just use them for cutting wire. So what I'm going to tell you about now is the Reality Works, and it's the really cool part. So you see 2 different types of boards up here. This is the board that's used in the state contest. Most of you probably have something similar to this. You can make this. If you produce a state team, you go to any contest, this is what you're going to see. If you go to Reality Works, and that is, if you don't know anything, that's where I would go. So, show of hands, how many of y'all how many of you teach an electricity unit? Okay, how many of you have no clue about it? Okay, a few of you interested? This is a great kit. And I say this is a great kit because for $700, you get one of these boards, you get this suitcase, and you get the light bulbs and a little bit of wire, some plugs, some switches, things like that. The board alone with the components is, I think, like $350. Depending on how your budget is, they're great. I was able to get this on a little bit of a grant. And the cool part about it, and we'll use it here in a minute and I'll show it to you, kids cannot get shocked. If you went through the OSU deal with either me or Dr. Fields, you know that they plugged it into the wall and it was live electricity. Lo and behold, 9 out of 10 times when I tell little Johnny, well, here's your problem. What? And he grabs it. You can't get shocked with this. It is off a bat. Well, okay, take that back. I haven't been shocked by it. My kids haven't been shocked by it. I've been using it for 4 years. So I'm sure there's a way that you could get shocked by it. I'm not going to throw that out there, but it is to me perfectly safe. And this is the kit here. A little tight on space here. One thing that I teach them, and what I do is once I get them out in the lab, I'm talking to them, and I say, all right, guys, we're going to do electrical wiring. Okay? And they all look at me. Well, if you look, there should be, have you passed out the safety test yet? Okay, so the safety test, if you flip to that, guys, it is real simple. Remember, this is 8th graders. We're not going to make this too complicated. I do not want to spend 2 weeks in there teaching safety when all they're going to be doing is at a table cutting wire. The main part about it is, yes, electricity, it causes harm. Then we do the black wire is called the hot, white's the neutral, the green or bare wire is the ground. The last 3, yes?
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but on back to the reality works stuff here, do you get one of those like per group or per student? Can you buy those individually?
Yeah, these boards? Yeah. Yeah, so for that, for $700, you get the suitcase and the board. Then you can go, see if it's down here below. You can buy this for $330 and you get a wall.
Do you get one per kid?
I've got 10 and I divide it as best I can.
Okay.
This last year I only had 8 kids, so we were great. Years before I had 18 kids, so we had to double up. And I'll show you a component of them that I like about it, but if you just buy one and you have to build your own, it'll be a little bit of a pain for you. And we'll hit that here in a minute. If you look at safety test number 5, after completing this lesson, you're able to work on electrical outlets. No. After completing this lesson, you realize that you love wiring electrical components. Which of the following is the best thing for you to do? Start working electrical teams. No, or start working electrical jobs. That's the wrong answer. You can join my CDE team, or you can go to the local tech school for electricity. And then after completing this class, you are an electrician. No. My main thing, the main stress that I want to get through these, that this is just an introductory class. Okay, it's here for you just to learn a little bit. If you like it, hey, come to practice, go to the tech center. I've got 2 kids that right now, they'll graduate high school, and a week later they'll graduate and they'll have their apprenticeship card and everything. All they need is hours to be a certified electrician. The guy over there, he loves when I send him kids because he knows they already know things. The kids told me, they said, Mr. Bean, they said, we sat around the whole semester twiddling our thumbs because he gives them way longer than what I give them the complete project. Wiring up an outlet, they should be able to do it in about 7 minutes. Well, they get about 4 times that over there and they're bored. But they are excelling in their class. They were actually featured in Byte magazine, like great kids. So, wiring in general. Let me cut this off here. So, things that I go over with them. Plug. Okay. What's the hot? What's the neutral? What's the ground? The smallest surface area is the hot. Fewer things fit inside there for you to get shocked. Okay? The bottom one is the ground, the other one's the neutral. If you look at it on the sides, gold is hot. Silver is neutral. And then green is ground. Green grass grows on the ground, green is ground. And then with that, on the majority of these, if you look on the back side of them, it'll say hot wire, white wire, neutral wire. Some of them say black wire. It'll tell them. So, I don't want to wire that one. If you're going to wire this up, you're going to need to know a few things. And I passed out the old handout from Dr. Fields about the general wiring recommendations. What I teach my kids right off the bat, they come out, we sit around and we wire up a duplex receptacle. If you look through your handouts, you should have this one. It's going to say exercise 1 single outlet. And I hand that exact same one to them, except mine is colored. The big copier at the school is not colored. So whenever they do that, it shows them exactly how to do it, where every wire should go. We start off small, then we increase from there. I always tell the kids, lay the board down to where you can work on it. Feed it through the back. You want about a handful above the box. Then take a pin, mark it on the inside there. Once it's marked, you're good. You want this outside Romex to go about 1/4 of an inch in the box. So then you can take, where to put my tools? There they are. You can take your little ripper or your little stripper or whatnot, come down, find your mark, get within 1/4 inch of it, slide it off, peel all this back, trim it all off, then you're set. So then most people, they ask me, well, how much of this outside insulation of each wire do I take off? Most of these outlets, if you look on the back side of them, and we can just pass around a few here, there is a strip gauge on them. Now, that can be adjusted a little bit depending upon who you are and how you make your loops. But this one's actually by the ground. You can see a strip gauge, a little indent. That's how much of that stuff to take off. So I always have mine come up. We measure. Put our thumb there. Make sure we use the right size hole on our strippers. If you have 12 gauge wire and you use the 14, you're going to nick it. Got to make sure you use the right one. Back and forth, flip it off. You do this long enough, you don't have to do much measuring. Now, and then here's the other part whenever we hook it up. I'm not going to stick it in the box because I want to put it up here where y'all can see it. Obviously, the kids would have it in the box. To make the hooks, I always have them grip it at the base, bend it back to a 45, then grip the top of it and roll it. And that makes a nice little hook. The other half, and what the kids want to do, is they want to just grip it and do that. Not bad, but to me this one looks better.
You grip it at the base?
I grip it at the base,
yeah,
and I bend it back 45,
yeah,
and then I grip it at the tip and roll it.
okay.
And when I roll it, I'm applying pressure this way, kind of down and away from your body. Then the other thing you want to do is whenever you wrap it around the screw, you want to wrap it the way the screw turns. And there's no dry erase markers. Oh, I have one. So for that, I am an ag teacher, not an artist. So if we have our wire coming up around this way, or we have our wire coming up around this way, this screw turns to the right? Righty-tighty. If we tighten this screw down, it's going to be pushing out on the wire. If we tighten this screw down, it's going to be pulling in on the wire. And it's going to make it contact more surface area. We have more surface area, we don't have as much resistance. Okay, so we want to have as much contact as we can. The other trick I picked up on here, and I show all my kids, whenever you actually put this on here, it is a two-handed project. Most of them just want to slap it on there and tighten the screw. I put it on there. Whenever I put it over, I put a couple fingers on the outlet, a couple fingers on the wire. These are pulling up, these are pushing down. Makes it nice and tight, makes it look neater. Makes it look, you know what you're doing. We then tighten it up. I tell all my kids, do not sit here and crank on this thing because these are brass screws. They're easy to strip out. Snug it up real good. The other option, and I'll do this one without doing how I usually do. Most kids just put it on there like that, and then they're going, and you just tighten it down on there. And then we'll put my bad hook of a ground on there, which technically will still work, but just doesn't look near as good and would be points off in the contest because it does make connection. So this is part of it. This box actually tells you what is right and what is wrong. Okay, so the box. And we've actually got some pictures of it. I'll show you here. It has a plug into our receptacle. We plug it into our outlet tester in our box. We then take our power cord, plug it into our box, plug it into here. Now, whenever I told you that if you built your own boards you would have a little bit of problem, they have to be hooked up to this box. Well, this box comes with one, and one only. I've taught this class when I teach it to my intro to Ag Mech. There's 15 kids in there. I only have 10 boards. Typically, I end up taking these off, and they're sitting up by me. Whenever you get everything wired, you come up, grab one, plug it on any of your wire, and we go with it. Let's see. There. There's your strip gauge. Huh. Where'd that picture? Oh, there's that picture. Okay, so something got rearranged. Okay, so these are the lights. And if you don't know anything about electricity, you just kind of want to start, guys, I highly recommend this. Mainly because, and you'll see the exercises here in a minute, it comes with scenarios. This is your answer key. It comes with everything. That one kid that you say that excels through all this, you can always have more there. I typically only have them do the 4 that I gave you. The other packet that's stapled, that's just extra materials that I had when I was OSU. Great stuff to have. I have them do that 4. I usually have 2 or 3 kids that run through those in a week. I allot 2 to 3 weeks. Well, I have my folder, and I teach all of this in my intro to Ag Mech class. And I just pull the next one out and say, all right, here you go, do that one. Here you go, do that one. And they get to run with it.
What book is that?
This is the electrical wiring scenarios, and it comes with this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I've got those up here on the PowerPoint too for you to look at. But this thing, whenever you turn it on, it'll tell you here what's right, what's wrong. We've got 3 green lights. 3 green lights means it's correct. We're good. If you take one of those off, it'll tell you that it's wrong. The other thing I like about it, and it's more of a visual part, the kids seem to like it a little better. And so this is 3-way switches. You screw in the lamp base. Plug in the light socket tester. I actually showed my school board this one because it's a little cooler. We turn it on. Up here it says we're good or bad. There's a little light that comes on. The kids actually get to see the light come on, come off, versus the, okay, yeah, it looks good. Like I said, guys, I haven't been shocked with this, and I've touched every component of it. To me, it's really safe. I know that they have redone this kit since I got it. It's a much smaller version, and it's not a big suitcase like this, which I actually like the suitcase.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you about that. I just got 2 sets of those, and that comes with a little zip-up kit.
Is it a lot smaller?
I was wondering if it was the same as this.
This is from, like I said, about 4 years ago.
Okay, yeah, mine I just got 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, they've redone it. I really like it. I think it's a blast. Like I said, I use it to teach my 8th graders to get them hooked and try to get them into electricity. And then I also use it in my intro to Ag Mech class.
So you said earlier when you were putting the parts together on that plug, you said that your ground wire one, even though it has full connection and is correct, it would cost you points in a contest. What would that highlight? Because any point, half a point would cost you first.
Yes, definitely. So what it is,
you say that would have probably cost you that.
And you see up here how this is wrapped fully around. Well, this one's not. At the contest, we have 10 different scenarios. And we just randomly, we put them all in a hat. We draw a hat. and say, all right, this is it. Well, if you look up the rubric on there, I think the hot connections are worth 15 points, the neutral's worth 15, the ground's worth 15, and we go through, and if there's 5 hot connections, each one's worth 3 points. So technically that one, yeah, it makes connection, but they're not going to get full credit. We're probably going to take off a point. We do have a judges meeting before we discuss all this. We all take notes, make notes, that way everyone's graded the same. What we would prefer is something like this. The recommendation, this outside insulation does not need to be under the screw head. I tell my kids don't let it go past the back of the outlet. Just because in reality, if you've got this hot one here and it's stripped all the way to here, the odds of you touching that and getting shocked are very high. The odds of it touching the side of a metal box and shorting out is very high. So we like to keep it up here nice and neat.
Requirements for the state contest on the OSU website?
They should be, yes. Yeah, we are going to redo a few of them and try to make it more transparent. Me and Mr. Tillinghast, the main thing we want to get to is, because we're ag teachers, we run it. Obviously, we have a team in it. We want to be transparent. That way no one can accuse us of anything.
Are any of the other colleges running it with the winter classes to get some practice?
Yeah, typically they do. Wilburton usually has it. They didn't this year. Murray usually has it. They didn't. Connor usually has it. They had it this year. Where else?
Seminole and Tishomingo, Murray.
Seminole had one. Yeah, I had Murray. Yeah, Seminole had one this year. I know Mr. Tillinghast ran that one. Any college that calls one of us and says, hey, we're going to put on an electricity contest, we tell them all we need is a room. We do everything. The state contest, the written test is usually what determines the winners and losers. We never see it until after the contest.
You know, one thing, like, just to jump in, like, we've talked about, you know, with this year, this was actually the first state contest that him and I actually got to do the whole thing after the transition from the other ag teachers that used to run the contest. And, you know, we talked about this summer putting together, like, some different video series showcasing, like, what is considered full points on, you know, the way you connect your hots, and what would be considered a certain number of points off for not connecting your correctly with the hots, based off of what the National Electric Code calls for. They know they revamp that every few years, and so we try to keep that up to date. But then also, like at the state contest, like, we don't write the written test. We don't bring just his tools and my tools. We got 3 or 4 schools bring tools. We had our student superintendent select the tools, and we weren't even in the room. We just went back through and as a committee made sure everything was named correctly and move on. And so for those that are interested in doing the CDE contest, while he's setting this up for the next part, you know, we definitely want to try to put together some, you know, there's some different videos or some different kind of parameters that are based around the National Electric Code, but then also pretty practical for us to use as ag teachers in the classroom. I mean, if you've seen the National Electric Code, that is a beast to try to teach kids, and you gotta kind of jump certain things, focus on certain areas only.
So when you teach your kids, the way I teach mine, I have them draw it out, just to help them understand it. That way they're not up here cutting wire, because obviously wire costs money. That roll of wire doubled during the pandemic. So I have them draw it out. This is one of the scenarios in that staple book. We all have colored pencils. We have a black, a blue, a green, and a red. And what I tell them, so I work out the outlet. We'll do it up here like this. I'll show them the wiring. I'll leave it setting up here. Okay, go do that one. Well, then the next one, when we do the single pole switch, we do it together up here, but I don't wire it. I have them go wire it. Then the next step, whenever they do the 2 outlets, they do it all. And then the next step, whenever they do the 2 lights, they do it all. So try to transition into that. My electricity kids, I don't do anything for them. I say, all right, do this. Hand it to them. I've also went through and made copies of all those, and I white out all the wires. So the kids have to draw it to do anything. They have to have my approval before they start cutting wire. So the way I do it is I always start with the hot wire, and I ask them, okay, the black wire has the hot on it. It has the electricity, what we're using. In order for this switch to control this light, we have to break it. The switch breaks, interrupts the current, interrupts the circuit. So the black wire needs to go to one terminal, and the black wire, this one, needs to go to the other terminal. Outlets, light sockets. Depending upon how cheap the ones you buy, most of them have the gold and silver. Some of them have all silver. I haven't found a great brand that holds up over a couple years. Typically, I'm buying new ones every summer. The black one goes to the silver, or the gold. The way to determine that, and the way that I tell the kids, if you look at this outlet, you notice it's got 2 prongs on the back. One of them goes to this outside silver ring, and one of them goes to that itty bitty dot way back in the back. If wired correctly, which wire should have the electricity? The black. Would you rather the black go to this big silver outside ring, or that itty bitty dot way back in the back? Itty bitty dot way back in the back, so it's harder to reach, right? Well, then they can simply trace it. Oh, well, that's that screw over there. And that's how I teach it, because I haven't found a great source to use for the basis. So after we get the hot done, then we do the neutral. So the neutral circuit, does it ever go to a switch? There are certain cases, but for what I teach, no, it doesn't. So, no, it doesn't. So this neutral and this neutral have to connect. Where does it go over here? It goes to the silver screw. Okay, now the ground wire. What on here needs grounded? The switch. This is a great opportunity to bring up, say, okay, well, why isn't the lamp base grounded? Well, then we talk about insulators and conductors and how porcelain and plastic doesn't conduct electricity. So this one can simply go to there. Then I have them go wire it. Again, guys, this is 8th graders. We're not getting super technical into it. How much time I got? I got plenty of time. So, guys, I apologize for the next part of the slideshow. I typically teach this lesson in a lab. There is no PowerPoint. There's nothing. There's a whiteboard there that I do some drawing on. I usually have my kids where I can rotate around and teach them. After yesterday, I realized how large this thing was and realized I actually needed to have something that way y'all could all see it at the same time. These are the pictures out of that Reality Works curriculum. So 2 outlets in a series. Okay, as you can see, they're color-coded. You got your grounds, you got your hots, you got your neutrals. Okay, single pole switch controlling a light. And then you've got a single pole switch controlling 2 lights. You have these. The next one is a single pole switch controlling 2 lights. Power in here. You've got to split off, go to the switches, go to the lights. An outlet with a pull chain light on it in a series. Single pole switch and an outlet. The red is an extra hot. If you get wire, this is a 12-2, meaning it has 2 conductors. A black and a white. The white can be used to conduct electricity. If it is done, you need to put black tape within 3 inches of the screw. That way, anybody that works on it can identify that that's hot and they won't treat it like a normal neutral wire. The red wire in this case is used to bring extra power in from here to there. That way it's actually controlled. One of the most common things in the way that I teach my kids, you have to force that power to go to the switch first. No matter where it comes in at, if it's controlling a light, it's got to go to the switch before the light. Same concept here. 3-way switches. Okay, 3-way switches can be a little difficult if you don't know the tricks to them. All 3-way switches have 2 travelers and a common. And the saying that I teach my kids is the power goes in the common, 2 travelers are connected with nothing in between, the power will come out the common. So, and I use this visual on them. Okay, and then all right, here's our light over here. All right, so this is going to be our hot. We're going to here. We're going to connect those two together, go to there, and then we're going to pretend this is our neutral right now. Goes over there. So the way that I teach them is that each one of these have a toggle. If it's here and here, we're getting power. Well, if you flip this switch and it goes to there, you're not completing a circuit, you're not getting power. If you turn around and you flip this switch down to there, you're completing a circuit, you're getting power. Typically, whenever you draw this on the board and they can see the toggles, it makes a little more sense to them. I also tell them that these, much like the GFCIs that we'll get to here in a minute, they're like vehicles. Every truck has a place for you to check the oil. Every manufacturer puts that thing in a different place. The common screw is on every three-way switch. Where it's at depends on who made it. Most of them are real simple. They identify it with the black screw. They also do not have a on-off switch. There's another one powering at the light for the three-way switches. Another three-way switch. Three-way switch is light, powering through the light. Single pole switches. See, this one doesn't have GFCIs on it, I don't think. Quick plug about the GFCIs. These, again, go back to the vehicle. Every vehicle has a way to check the oil, where it's at different. All of these will tell you exactly how to wire them up. It has a hot side, it has a white side, has a line side, and it has a load side. Power in is line. Wherever your power comes, so if you're powering in and you have the black wire, it goes on the line side, on the hot side. It can only go to that screw. Well, power in neutral can only go to that screw. If you have a protected receptacle, you're going to come out of the load side, go to that receptacle, then it is protected. Way GFCIs work, they measure how much electricity is used going out on the hot versus how much comes in on the neutral. Any fluctuation of difference, it trips. Okay. These are the enhancement exercises. These I typically don't do except for with my electricity team because they're a lot more labor intensive. They take a while to do. Split circuit, that one's actually not too bad. Okay, that's all I have. I know that was really fast. I'm going to really encourage y'all to ask some questions.
We've got about 15 minutes left. If anybody's
Yeah, whatever you got. If y'all want to come up here and look at all this stuff, go back.
I've got a question. The difference between, let's say you have two duplex receptacles.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference between wiring them in series versus parallel, or is that just a term that...
Great question. So, whenever we have, and the best way I can analogize is Christmas lights. One bulb goes out, whole thing's done, right? That is a series circuit. The electricity has one way to go. Well, in a parallel, it can actually choose. So, we're going to pretend this is a receptacle, that's a receptacle, neutral, hot, neutral. So, go to here, we've got another screw, we'll come over to here. Oh, not over there. That'd be a direct short. That's a series. It cannot go any other way than from here to that one, through there to here. If you want to make it a parallel, then I gotta get better at drawing. Come to here, then we pigtail, run a short jumper over there, and then go to there. Whereas our neutral does the same thing.
In the state contest, do they say which
Yes.
way it has to be?
Yes. That'll be something that's on the board. What we do is we write it up on there, series or parallel on the board. Typically we give them some sort of a paper like this too. But we do use series and parallel interchangeable. If you look through A lot of my notes, I actually have the kids, there's a lot of those you can wire up in a series or parallel, such as this one with the duplex. This one is a series. In my folders, they do it in a series, and about 2 boards later, they do it in a parallel. I do that because your kids that somewhat know what they're going to do, they're just going to tear it apart and make it right there. Now, that saves wire and stuff, but for 8th graders, I want them physically stripping that wire every chance they get. Because the more they strip it, the more they make the hooks, the more they make the loops, the better they get at it. The other thing I'm going to tell you is I always give the kids way too much wire. And I tell them you do not cut the wire in half. Such as this board. If we pull this wire out and put it back to where it's supposed to be, obviously we have a lot. But whenever this kid gets done with this and I grade it, I come in here and I snip it off here, I snip it off here, hand it back to him and say, now do the next one. And then I'm only losing a foot of wire versus 2 foot. Helps save wire in the long run. I would recommend, when I start off, I usually start my kids off about a 6 foot piece of wire. Anywhere 6 to 8 foot, and they run through them. We do the same thing on the state contest. We tell them that we will not count off for extra wire outside of the box because we want to save our wire. We do count off for extra wire inside the box, but not outside.
What would you say on average cost a year that you would have, say, if you were not because you do your 8th grade class as well, but just say if I was going to look at starting an electricity team, kind of what would I need to kind of...
After the initial setup, I'm going to say you're going to buy a roll of 12 gauge, roll of 14 gauge a year. And that's probably going to be about it if your kids don't break anything. I've been lucky enough that whenever I actually got this grant, I went to Lowe's, told the guys what I was doing. They gave me half off. I walked out with 6 rolls of wire each, 250-foot rolls. Well, then they turned around, wrote the grant again. They said, hey, we need to spend more money. I said, I'll take more wire. So I got like 3 or 4 more rows of each. I've got a pretty good stockpile. It's going to last me for a while. I would say a roll of wire a year. If you give them the extra to where they don't waste a whole piece of wire. Anything else?
During the contest, you just wire it to like that right there. You don't have to put them in the box.
Yeah, you leave it out like this. That way I can see it. I highly encourage this because if the kid has this shoved down in there, I've got to see it, so I've got to pull it back out. Whenever I pull it back out, things could break. This wire nut could come off, things like that. If they leave it out like this to where I don't have to touch it, things don't happen. We also tell the kids at the contest, do not attach your receptacle, switches, outlets to the boxes. We still have some of them that do. So we tell them that. We try to prevent anything that can be prevented. Anything else? Yes, sir.
Is there a resource guide or curriculum or whatever to teach the kids what's on the written test, all that?
There is, on the state CDE contest, there is resources. There's some books. Like I said, this year we had a guy that made the test. He's made it for the past 8 to 10 years. We called him, said, hey, you've made it for the past 5 years or so. Would you make it again? He said, yeah. I said, all right, well, you send it to this email address. Gave him Dr. Terry's email address. I said, you just send him the test and the key. We'll be good. Well, he didn't look at a resource guide. He just pulled books off his shelf and made it. So without us making it, because we don't want to make it, because then we're going to be accused of things, we are trying to get them to use our resources. That list of resources is probably going to be updated before school starts December or so.
Like I bought a bunch of I went through Amazon, looked at several different colleges and universities that are teaching electricity units and what resources they're using. So, and I bought some of the ones that I went through the book chapter were pretty good. I mean, we're talking you get 3 or 4 textbooks for $400-$500 just for fairly big. That have lots of way more information. But a lot of the other stuff out there is outdated, way outdated. They may not even publish it anymore. So that's there's a lot of good resources, but there's a lot of outdated resources as well.
One book that I buy My kids have this book, Ugly Electrical References. The good part about this is it'll teach you amps, watts, volts, ohms. Most of the contests have some sort of a math problem on there. If you go to Connors, it's probably going to work with 20 points. And it is math. It'll say if the ohms are this much, the watts are this much, what is the volts? And they have to do it. This chart right here, if you can get them to memorize that, you're golden. Because that's how you calculate all that. My kids have a copy of this book, and I preach to them, study, 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 study. There's some for $10. That has a lot of it in there. They have, based on the quality of that book, I would probably recommend that these books might be pretty good. The residential wiring. I personally don't have it, but I love this ugly book.
You said earlier you buy 12 gauge and 14 gauge.
Yes.
When do you?
That's price point. So what I use the most of is 12-2 for simple stuff like this. If I have to have a three-way switch or a split wired receptacle, I buy 14-3. I bought it that way because it's a little bit cheaper, and my Lowe's typically has 14-3 in stock, and it's cheaper than 12-3. And the difference is the 12 is yellow, the 14 is white, the 12 is a little bit of a thicker wire. That happens. Such as this one, this is a split duplex receptacle. So if we hook this up, the bottom's going to be hot all the time because the power comes in here, pigtails runs to the bottom. The red wire attaches to the top, meaning the top is controlled by this switch. And that would be where the 14-3 would be used.
This is always going to be 12 gauge at various contests you go
Yep.
to.
If I'm putting on the contest, I'm going to have 12 gauge or I'm going to have 14-3. And I put on every contest that calls me. Or I call them.
So none of your wiring is ground?
For this, no. On the contest, we have metal boxes. And sometimes we will have to ground the boxes. And we do that randomly. So what we'll do is, like if this was a state contest, we drew out three-way switches. We would put in a no ground, ground box 1, ground box 2, ground box 3. We shuffle it up, we draw one. Well, in this one, we said we were going to ground box 2. And that's what this little ground clip is here. And all it does is go in there and clip it. The other thing that we do, I don't do it in class because to me it wastes a lot of wire. But in the contest, if you twist these ground wires, it's way better than a wire nut because a wire nut has a tendency to come off. If you twist them together, they are physically bound. They are not coming apart. Anything else?
So they do allow you to twist them.
Yes.
I've always told mine, don't
Yeah.
twist them.
I recommend twisting them in the contest just because they're together. They're there. They're not leaving. For my classroom, I will probably use a wire nut. That way it's easier to take apart. But that's 8th graders.
So is that Romex 14-3 with the ground?
That's 14-3 with ground. Yes.
But you rather you just buy 14-3 or 12-2?
12-2. Yeah, on those boxes I do.
No ground.
Yeah, for 8th graders, I'm not going to, because this clip itself is a pain to get on. If you haven't fought with one, make sure the first time you fight with one, the kids are not around. Because you'll probably smash your fingers and things like that. But once you get it figured out and the kids get it figured out, it's not too bad.
Your 8th graders contests.
When?
Yeah.
Typically, so let's see, we get there, we do, the creed, opening ceremonies. I do an entomology unit. About the time it starts to get a little chilly, because my barn is not AC'd, it's heated. So November, December, I've done it in January, February before, depending upon really where it falls. I typically allow about 2 or 3 weeks for this, depending upon the class. Anything else?
So with 8th graders, you go through all the basics of electricity before you start wiring, or you just
Yeah, I wire up the outlet, talk to them about bending the wire, and I spend a lot more time on it than I did with y'all. We'll spend a full 50 minutes just wiring that up. Talking about how to use the pliers, how to strip it off, how to hook it on there, and I slow it way down for them.
But do you go through the basics of electricity as far as,
I do a little bit. That's where we get that safety test as far as which one's the hot, the neutral, the ground. I really cover it more in depth in my Intro to Ag Mech class because they do all of those that I listed up there, all those wiring scenarios. 8th graders is real bare bones, minimum, introductory. Try to get them out in the lab and do something. Anything else? Guys, if you get home, you realize you want to learn some more, call me, email me, something. I help anybody out any way I can. If you want to come up here and look at more of this stuff, you're more welcome to. We'll hang out and talk about this all day long if you want to. That's all I've got.
Good job.